Hello everybody, welcome back to ERU, the show where we look at the biggest talking points from across Europe from the weekend's action. No Doogie this week, but joining me, Sam Obasaki. Sam, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, bro. I'm happy to be coming on ERU and not winners and losers because, you know, the inevitable result would have had to, you know, be talked about, and I'm happy we're not talking about that today. But apart from that, yeah, weekend was fine. Didn't watch too many highlights after that. I just had to, you know, get that out of my mind and go into this week afresh, anew. Do you know what I mean? How are you though?
Well, I mean, you're skirting around the issue there, but what if people are confused what Sam's talking about, it is, of course, Brentford's annihilation of Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, which, for everyone who doesn't support Chelsea, which is most of the country, absolutely what a demolition job. Chelsea in the muds. Everyone getting excited because Rudiger scored a good goal, but
screamer though. Yeah, it was a screamer. Let's be honest. That was a huge goal for Rudiger.
It was, but it wasn't as cool as Eriksen doing the stuff. Once more, we love that. Anyway, we're not talking about Chelsea as much as I'd love to. Well, actually, we sort of are to kick off because Sam, you're an expert to have on the matter here because our story of the weekend, our transfer story of the weekend, is this news that Lukaku has personally contacted Inter Milan about a potential return to the San Siro. I mean, Sam, give us a bit more on this one.
Well, according to Tutto Sports, the Belgian spoke to the directors Piero Asilio and Beppe Murata last week as he looks to, you know, go back to a team that he was a top striker for. Not saying that he's actually, not saying he's not a top striker right now, but obviously he's currently not he's currently not on form. The article claims that Lukaku is willing to take a 50% pay cut of his reported 325k a week week salary, and obviously, as we know, he was bought by Chelsea for £97.5 million. So Chelsea are only looking to loan him out if the rumours are true, and that might be a good thing for both parties, to be honest, because you'll mention it later, but it hasn't really gone to plan for Lukaku. As we all know, he's currently only scored 12 times in 35 appearances, which isn't terrible. Like, if we're being honest, for any striker that comes to the Premier League, yeah, you won't look at that tally and say, oh, he's had a terrible season. We've seen some of the goals he scored. He scored some big goals in the Club World Cup. He scored a few good goals at the beginning of the season. But yeah, you're going to mention, you know, the infamous interview later. But yeah, I think scoring 5 goals in the Premier League at a time where, you know, obviously we're still in that conversation for the top 4 spot. I think personally we're gonna clinch it, but at the same time we're still in that conversation. If Arsenal win their game today, then they're only 2 points behind us. And so many Arsenal fans have been telling me that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of speculation because, you know, he was on international duty with Roberto Martinez, and he obviously came out speaking about Lukaku's future. He hinted that, you know, the coming months for the Belgian striker is huge, and that it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the summer. He said that this is a big moment for his career. So I think it would, obviously, the easy way out, in my opinion, would be for Lukaku to go back to Inter, a place that he was loved, a place that he scored goals, a place that, you know, he really found himself. But at the same time, I think the bigger challenge would be staying at Chelsea. But what do you reckon?
No, I completely agree with you, but at the same time, the style of play really just isn't the same as it was when he was playing at Inter Milan with Lautaro Martinez as his support striker. I think we discussed this before, but he's just not getting the minutes or the love, really. I mean, Thomas Tuchel said he was part of his plan, still very much part of it, dismissing any speculation. I mean, to be fair, Tuchel's been brilliant in the press recently, so he knows what he's doing, but, you know, he was benched again for that Brentford defeat, came on, by that point I think Brentford ran away with it, so not much he could do there. And, you know, he's only started 12 times in the league all season. This is their record signing. It's impossible to overlook that fact. He's earned the 12th most minutes in the Blues squad. He's on par almost with Trevor Chalobah at the moment, and yeah, it's just not really working for him. Still 28 years old, but this was a transfer that had to go right, and it's just kind of going a bit wrong. As you kind of pointed out, he loves Inter Milan. He scored 64 times for the Nerazzurri across 2 campaigns. which is unbelievable numbers. I think it's like 45 in Serie A, where they won the title last season, and he'll be watching them going again this year, really riding high in Italy. So we'll touch on it a bit later, but a massive victory against Juventus last night, 1-0 away. I think their first win at the Juventus Stadium in almost a decade, in what is turning out to be a thrilling title race, in fact, between Napoli, AC, Juve, all those big boys. And we know that he misses Inter Milan, doesn't he? I mean, we saw that interview with Sky Italia back in December, which you mentioned, really ill-judged, one of the big blunders of the season, in my opinion. Yeah. There's no guarantees, though, that the Nerazzurri will necessarily take him back. Obviously, he's loved there, but he is 28 years old, pushing on 29. And they are looking at other options too. There's Gianluca Scamacca of Sassuolo, who we've been talking about. Potentially a €40 million move. He's 23 years old, scored 13 in 29 Serie A appearances this season. I think a lot of people are very excited about him. There's also news that Seb Haller of Ajax is being looked at. And also, Paulo Dybala too, Inter in the running potentially to land that free agent, which would be a massive coup, especially nicking someone off their direct rivals in Juventus. So there's no guarantees at all that Lukaku's going to get back into that Inter Milan squad with ease. But I mean, yeah, Sam, I'm kind of with you though. I think the greater challenge would be staying at Chelsea to see if he can really improve there. But I mean, in your opinion, like, where do you think it's slightly gone wrong?
I think, like you mentioned, I think the way we've played this season, I think we've had periods where Lukaku's looked really good. I think the injury coupled with the interview and then him getting COVID, there were so many things in that period. Like, literally, I think someone tweeted the other day that they tweeted a picture of the interview, and since then, like, it just went wrong for him. I think that did a lot for his confidence. Even when he does score, doesn't seem to be celebrating as passionately as he was before. And he spoke so highly of Chelsea when he came, and I think he did kind of shoot himself in the foot with that interview. But at the same time, I still believe that his intentions weren't what everyone's trying to make it seem. I still believe he wanted to come back, be a Chelsea legend, score goals, help us challenge for trophies. And yeah, it's just not gone great this season. But I honestly think that he's still got. I'm not cancelling him and counting him out for Chelsea moving forward. I think this happens with players sometimes. Sometimes you hit the ground running when you join a club. Sometimes you don't. Do you know what I mean? We've seen it with other players at Chelsea. Havertz didn't have a great season last year. He came this year. And obviously we know Lukaku played in the Premier League before, but you can't deny the fact that he's playing for a different team, a different system, a team that isn't working solely around his best attributes. And maybe that's something Tuchel has to take into consideration. But I believe Tuchel is the best man for that job. And hopefully they sort it out, because I actually do really want him to be a success at Chelsea. Yeah,
I completely agree. Oh, that massive fee. Not much time for it to go well. Let's see. All right, what do you think? Should Lukaku stay and fight for his place, or move on, try and return to Inter Milan? Let us know in the comments down below. And let's move on to our result of the weekend.
So the result of the weekend could only come from one place, and that is in Scotland. Is that good? Was that good?
It was something. It was something, yeah.
I thought it was all right, you know. Obviously, Celtic and Rangers, the Old Firm derby. Big game, big result. Henry, what are you telling me?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get into the Old Firm, there were tons of games, to be honest, we could have chosen from across the continent. We mentioned that Inter victory against Juve, a very impressive Juve, it must be said. Yeah, Napoli kept their Scudetto hopes alive with a big 3-1 win away at Atalanta. I was just in Naples, went to a bar with Diego Maradona's hair spinning around in a little sort of a shrine, which was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. But yeah, they're buzzing, they're loving it this year. Barcelona moved into second in La Liga with a 1-0 win over Sevilla, and then we saw Leipzig smash Dortmund 4-1 away from
shocking.
Home to really sort of, yeah. I mean, Dortmund. I've given up Dortmund. Yeah. They're such a stupid side. That's. I mean, Leipzig's Champions League ambitions well and truly back on track under Tedesco. But yes, speaking of another sort of Champions League ambitions, because this is where the game was really important in the Old Firm. That was Rangers versus Celtic. So Rangers home advantage. It's a 6-point game essentially, this one. And Celtic managed to claw back from a 1-0 deficit to win 2-1 at a fairly raucous Ibrox, as we'll get into it a bit later. I mean, what a first half it was. Really electric. Saw Rangers go ahead on the 3rd minute. Ryan Kent, who I've been absolutely loving in the Europa League this season, he's wicked little winger. He sort of beat his man to cross for Aaron Ramsey to sweep home for a second goal in 4 league appearances for his new sides. But then on the 7th minute, it was 1-1 when we saw Tom Rogic bundle home in the box after a few attempts. There, Rogic, who's having a bit of a resurgent season actually, so I'm really pleased for the Australian. And then we saw Cameron Carter-Vickers, who is such a unit of a centre-half. He had a great game to get into. He lashed, from a free kick, he lashed onto a ball in the box to sort of drill home to put Celtic in the lead, and they kind of went from there, really. I mean, it was a really professional defensive performance in the second half. And although Joe Hart did have to pull off an excellent save, I'm really pleased with Joe Hart to see him sort of central to a big project again. I would always have a soft spot for him, so it's so great to see there. And actually, that Celtic could have extended their lead towards the end, but Alan McGregor saved really well from Abada. So 2 really solid goalkeeping displays in this match. But yeah, Sam, why is this? Run through the numbers of why this is such an important victory for Celtic.
I think because it was just so tight at the top in their league. I think Celtic, obviously, if they didn't win that game, they would have been on joint points with Rangers, 76 points, although Celtic have the superior goal difference. And obviously, like you mentioned, with that win for Celtic, they now have a 6-point gap, which kind of gives them a bit of breathing space, and they will not count themselves lucky because, like you said, they had their moments in the game. But in terms of overall, Rangers genuinely dominated that game. They had 61% possession. They took 15 shots to Celtic's 11. But obviously, like you said, Joe Hart, who was on top form, who I also appreciate as he just seems like a great guy. Do you know what I mean? So he's one of them players that you just want him to do well. But he had 5 saves in that match. Carter Vickers was a brilliant centre half. He made 8 clearances, winning 7 of his 9 aerial duels, making 3 interceptions and not committing a single foul. And in such a game with, a lot on the line, the crowd, everyone just roaring you on, I'm not going to lie, to not commit a single foul is amazing. And now Celtic have been unbeaten in the league since mid-November, have won 22 of their past 26 games. And obviously everyone knows that Chris Hamill, who is currently on holiday, is one of the advocates for Celtic this season. He speaks more passionately about Celtic than anything that I've ever heard him talk about. So we are almost forced to know how Celtic are doing all the time, which is fair enough. And like you said, these stakes are much higher. The winner of this league guarantees their spot in the UCL group stage next season. So it was a massive victory, and I think they are now obviously the favourites for the title. The only downside, and we spoke about it before we went on air, was just the fact that I feel like this season more than ever we're seeing fans do things that is just making the fan side of things just a bit uglier, and it's really upsetting to see that there was pieces of glass thrown at people on the pitch. I think someone in the Celtic dugout had to get stitches as a result, and obviously that's just something you don't want to see in a football game. We can understand the passion that everyone is passionate about the team they support, about football in general, but when it gets ugly like that, it just ruins the whole occasion, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is actually what Ange Postecoglou, the Celtic boss, had to say on it after the match. Not a happy man.
And can I just ask on the bottle incident, am I right in saying one of your support staff was also struck by an object at some point during?
Yeah, he was on the way in at half time.
How are they? Are they okay?
Yeah, I think he's okay. He had a couple of stitches, and again, just disappointing because this is a fixture that gets beamed around the world, and it stands on its own. For what it, 2 teams going at it, first and second spot. You don't need a couple of idiots ruining it.
Yeah, Ange Postecoglou, right to call them idiots there. Overshadowed what was another brilliant Old Firm derby in a year when the Old Firm derby really is back. Has to be said with how tight the table is. 6 games left, 6 points between the two. Do you think Rangers have any chance of closing Celtic down? Let us know down below. We'll move on to the star of the week. Only one man for it. For our star of the week, we are going to France. I didn't really want to include him because we talk about him so much. There's other players out there who we could mention. However, Kylian Mbappe put on probably the 11 out of 10 masterclass, one of the best individual performances I've ever seen in PSG's win over Lorient.
Yeah, he was levels above. But before we go on to him, I feel like there was a few other young G's and even older heads in the game that had standout performances this weekend. I think Pedri, if you haven't seen his goal, go check that out because that was a madness. João Felix as well. A lot of people have been saying that his time at Atletico has been a bit hit and miss, but he scored a brace. Luis Suarez scored a brace as well in Atletico's win. Juanmi scored 2 and assisted 2 for Real Betis' 4-1 win over Osasuna. Those to just name a few. But yeah, Kylian Mbappe is incredible. He was the standout man in PSG's 5-1 thrashing of Lorient. Obviously, he's a megastar. We know that he's always going to be scoring goals. He's always going to get in and amongst it. And I think this season, he has been probably PSG's best player, standout player, and he proved that again in their game against Lorient. He scored 2 goals, he assisted 2 as well. He netted
assisted three all 5 goals. Yeah,
that is mad. I didn't know that. You put that wrong in the script. That wasn't on me, but we keep it moving. Assisted 3, scored 2, and he also netted 2 for France in their friendly against South Africa, and that was one of the goals in that game was just incredible. Top bins finish. I don't think it was on like a complete half volley, but the ball seemed to have been bouncing a little bit. So to even just do that is just incredible. He seems to be going from strength to strength, and he's still only 23 years old. We're talking about him like he's been in the game for years, and he kind of has been, but he's still very young. He's been directly involved in 315 goals in 323 first team appearances for club and country. Now that is the second time that I've seen that stat. And I'm not going to lie to you, Henry, that is mad.
It's mad. It is mad. I think it's something about 71 minutes per goal involvement at the moment. So yeah, he's just running insane. And certainly after a difficult period for PSG, for him to step up and play like this with all that speculation around his head as well, it's just incredible. I mean, if we look at that game, he set up Neymar for the opener, and then his first goal, just beautiful drive into the bottom corner, completely caught the goalie flat-footed. Although Sam reckons that he does it more often than people think.
No, he does. He does. You can literally, if you type in Mbappe near post finish, yeah, you will see how often he does it. And it's like, as a keeper, you can't anticipate that, because if you're leaning more to your near post in that type of position, you'll look like you're in the wrong. And I think that's Mbappe's, like, it's almost like a cheat code. Yeah. You see all of these goals, some of his biggest goals in the Champions League, you'll see him hitting it near post. So it's definitely on purpose.
He's just got it all, doesn't he? Yeah, I completely agree with you. But his second goal was almost even better. Just completely beat the defender and just calmly smashed it into the bottom corner from outside the box. And then after that, the 2 assists he created, the first one for Messi, it just... such an amazing work down the left-hand side, and even his pass for the 5th goal where he sits through is genius. It was just an amazing performance all round. He could have easily scored a hat-trick, completely dominated Lorient. 3 shots, 4 key passes, 7 successful dribbles. What performance from the Frenchman. And after the game, you'll love to hear it, he talked about his future once more. This is what he's kind of quoted as saying: "I haven't made my choice. Everybody knows that. I'm thinking there are new elements and a lot of parameters." Sounds like sort of corporate chat, doesn't it? Is it possible to stay at PSG? Yes, of course. What are these new elements? What are these new parameters? Let us know. Actually, I think we're going to cover this on Euro Transfer Talks, so go check out that tomorrow. But I mean, a final word on Mbappe, Sam. What a player.
He's amazing. And to be honest, in my opinion, I honestly just want to see another season with him, Messi and Neymar. I feel like he is probably the key, even though when Messi came in, he probably felt like he was now playing third fiddle, because he already admitted that when Neymar came in originally, that he was like the one that had to cater to him. So Messi coming in, he probably felt like that. But I'm sure that they're begging him and saying, bro, we can build something special here. And I know that they can do the same. He can do the same thing at Real Madrid, but I don't know. There's something about that front line and winning a Champions League that I just need to see, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let us know where you think he should go next down below. Quickly, Sam, what are you working on this week on Snapchat?
Snapchat today, we are talking about Bella Silva. Yeah, Ooh. She was riding out for her husband, and I love it. I love what she had to say. I love that she had a translator on standby to help her with her English and her passion. So if you want to hear about that story, come over to Snapchat and we'll have a little convo about it.
Oh, I love that. That sounds class. All right, thank you so much for joining me, Sam. Make sure you subscribe to Eurofootball Daily. All of that stuff. You know what to do at home, guys. And we will see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.